Matt Irwin from the Department of State. We in Washington are lucky enough to have Andrew around full time. We get to abuse him for the price of a cup of coffee, so I'd pick your brain. I think you made a really important point that the benefits of peace are not self-evident to the Israeli political class. I mean, with the exception of a committed handful of defense and intelligence officials. So I think the primary challenge for U.S. policymakers in figuring out how to attack the issue is how to explain to Israeli politicians what's in it for them. And so my question for you is, what in the post-Scud era, what should we be describing to Israelis as what Bashar can do and is willing to do? And I think those are two separate questions. And how should they be reading things like the Scud transfers? Is this a sign that he is unwilling to explore the prospects of peace? Is it a sign that he's doubling down, trying to prove just how valuable a partner he could be by showing them how bad it can get unless they get the Golan back? And then a sub-question would be, what blowback can the Syrians expect to face from their partners, specifically Hezbollah, if they were to sign a deal?
How do you convince them? I think the only way to convince is to convince them that the balance of power is shifting and that America needs to respond to this shifting balance of power, that they're going to be without friends, and that regimes that are friendly to America are increasingly going to be put under pressure if there isn't an effort to make real peace. And Saudi Arabia is still there, and it's going to be there for a long time because they can throw a lot of money at the problem. But still, the Bahrain incident is, that's the canary in the mine, and we can't just stick our foot on this stuff. Hezbollah, of course, Syria's strategy is to try to arm with low-grade. The nuclear option didn't work, right? So you're going to try to go for low-grade missiles that can't be stopped. Now, America has just built this new missile shield for Israel at great expense, I guess, to stop the Hezbollah missiles. But that is Syria's strategy. Give as many missiles, try to get better technology, better guidance, so you can hurt Israel at home and hurt them, because only a change in balance of power is ever going to bring an agreement, as you say. So Syria's got to do better alliance system, better defense. Better defense is this low-grade missile, and Hezbollah has just challenged again and said, we can do the Galilee, and we're going to hit your ships, and we're going to do that. You read the recent article. So that's Syria's sense, is that in the long run, we can begin to change this, and that even countries like Saudi Arabia are going to have to come to us. Because if they want to defend against Iran, they're going to have to make friends with Turkey and Syria and make an Arab bloc, just in the old days, that will defend against and balance the power with Iran. As long as Iran can play the Arab-Israeli conflict and reach into the Arab world and animate us, Saudi Arabia is going to be very, very isolated. They're never going to be able to counterbalance Iran. And so I think that Israel, in the long run, is going to lose allies, and it's going to lose its position, and its military situation is going to degrade. And America can, of course, continue to double down on Israel and give them the extra $20 billion or $30 billion or whatever they need to give them. But in the long run, that's going to be unsustainable. And why not make peace? Sure, Iran, Hezbollah are going to, there's going to be a lot of squeaking if Syria makes peace. But Syria wants to move ahead with the economic issue, and this is where exactly I think the economic issue is so important. Syrians want a chicken in their pot. Assad understands that. He wants to put that chicken in their pot. But America, what America is saying to him is, we can increase your GDP growth by 2% if you give up the Golan. Assad says Syrians will survive without that extra 2 points of GDP growth because we want the Golan. And that's their face-off, and that's what we've been facing for the last 30 years. And he's determined, I think, to say, I can give you growth, and I can give you the Golan, or at least hold the position neutral, so that in the future, if there's a change in balance of power, we'll still be in a position to get the Golan. We won't have given it up. And I think, obviously, politically, it's very tough to convince Israel. But what America needs to do, in some ways, I think, is you can't, for a president, you can't cut relations with Israel, and you can't arm other people, but you can begin to ignore Israel a little bit. Not give them more money. Make friends with Turkey, even though Israel doesn't want you to make friends with Turkey. Do that ambassador to Turkey around Congress, right? and send an ambassador to Syria around Congress. Begin to move ahead with these relationships. Don't hurt Iran as much as you have to, right? Yes, you've got to do it. Give yourself political cover. But try to change that balance of power by ignoring Israeli concerns as much as you can without losing an election. To change the balance of power to the point where Israel will begin to think, maybe it's better to give back the Golan. Because today, we've skewed the balance so badly in Israel's favor that of course it's not in Israel's interest. They can have the Golan, they can crush Hamas, and they can crush Hezbollah all at the same time without ever even paying too much price. So why wouldn't that be your policy if you can just kill your enemies? Killing your enemies is a great policy, and we all would do it if we could do it, get away with it. Until Israel can't get away with it, they're going to kill their enemies. And so America's got to find a way to change that balance of power, and it's a very difficult thing to do. But others will find a way to do it. China, Russia, others are going to find a way to do it. So all America has to do is just tread in place for a while. And I think that others will begin to arm and give Syria what it needs, and Hezbollah, and other people. And that balance of power will begin to change in the future, and Israel will come to the table.
And on that note, I want to thank our two speakers for their very interesting insight into Syria in the future. And let's keep our fingers crossed about a possible peace. Thank you all for joining us. Yes, not the Syrian-Israeli.
Yeah, exactly.